The House has urged the federal government to appoint federal commissioners from the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory into the Federal Character Commission, as moved by Representative Onyime Idem.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I have a motion of urgent public importance that borders on the appointments of commissioners into Federal Character Commission. That commission has been running for years now without commissioners. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I would like to move the relevant rules of the House be suspended to enable me to take this motion. I so move.
Actually, your motion is in order. There's no need to suspend the rule.
A call on the federal government to appoint 37 commissioners into Federal Character Commission to aid effective delivery of its mandates. The House notes that the Federal Character Commission is one of the MDAs of federal government with the responsibility to promote, monitor, and enforce compliance with the principles of the proportional sharing of bureaucratic, economic, media, and political posts at all levels of government. Further away, that the Federal Character Commission came into operation and has the full force of law by the act of this National Assembly on the 27th December 1995. Away further, that the Federal Character Commission has been up and doing in carrying on its basic responsibilities since creation, till recently, when there was a drastic reduction in the number of commissioners available for the effective operation of the commissions representing the interests of each state of the Federation. Worried that the last commissioner standing from independent finding is the acting chairman of the commission, which will bow out of office in April this year, having reached the end of his tenure in office as allowed by the law. Notes that the particular purpose of setting up the Federal Character Commission is to maintain the federal character policy across the country, but unfortunately, the Commission has failed to maintain its internal appointment according to the Federal Character Procedure. Aware that Section 2, Sub 1 A to C of the Federal Character Commission Establishment Act 2004 as amended provides that the Commission shall consist of a chairman who shall be the chief executive of the Commission, B, a representative from each state of the Federation, and C, a representative of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Regrettably, the Federal Character Commission up till now is parading only one commissioner, who now is the acting chairman and functions in place of the 37 commissioners made provision for by the enabling act of this National Assembly. Aware that only one commissioner cannot function efficiently and maximally, no matter how brilliant and intelligent he is, and cannot represent the interests of the different states of the country. Need to urge the federal government to appoint more commissioners to the Federal Character Commission to accelerate the determination of objectives setting up the commission. Observe that the Federal Character Commission, due to shortage of hands, cannot effectively see to development at a time, thereby dragging in social, cultural, and adequate representation of the interests of each state of the Federation. There is huge responsibility of handling high volume of representation that one individual cannot make the decision favorably to all the states of the Federation as required. Having a representation will make the equitable inefficient, thereby having a ripple effect on the development system of the country. The reduction in the number of commissioners will certainly slow down the equitable dispensation of development across board. The House resolved to urge the federal government to appoint 37 commissioners into Federal Character Commission. 2, mandate the House Committee on Federal character to ensure compliance. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
I rise to second the motion as moved by my honorable colleague. I so second.
For federal government to appoint 37 commissioners into Federal Character Commission cannot be overemphasized here. This is a commission set up with the sole aim of ensuring effective distribution of government positions, employment to various states in this country, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. For some years now, that commission has been running without commissioners. The only one standing at the moment is a commissioner from Zamfara State, and he has been appointed as the acting chairman of that commission, meaning that that commission does not have a commissioner. And worrisome, Mr. Speaker, that particular commissioner is going to bow out of office by April this year. So by the time the commissioner leaves office, it means that that place will be empty without anybody to take decisions that affect the 36 states of this country, including the Federal Capital Territory. So on this note, I want to urge my colleagues that there is need for them to support this motion, and then we ask federal government to take urgent steps to appoint eminent qualified Nigerians to man this position so that the benefits that are due to the states and the Federal Capital Territory can be shared among them. And I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I'm Julius Ihanvere, Owan Federal Constituency, Edo State. Let me especially thank my brother, Honorable Yima Idem, for raising this very critical national issue. See, there are certain institutions that give citizens a sense of hope, commitment, fairness, and helps to build patriotism and unity. What I see in Nigeria at times, Mr. Speaker, is that on the one hand, we are trying to build national unity. On the other hand, we are negating the very institutions that are supposed to help us work in that direction. How do you have an agency established by the Constitution operating with just one commissioner? How will that agency manage to promote, protect, monitor, and oversee the issue of equity and justice in the distribution of positions into federal agencies and ministries? Mr. Speaker, I believe that we all here should support my brother, and the motion doesn't require a lot of talk. This should be handled with utmost urgency. I am shocked and embarrassed that the federal government will allow this to happen. There are hundreds and thousands of persons out there who can serve as commissioners. I'm aware that many states have already nominated commissioners. They are not appointed. How long are we going to continue like this in this country? How long? Honorable colleagues, I think my brother, Comrade Uyume, has presented something to us. I urge you all to support it, and I believe it is part of our contribution to creating a better nation where truth, justice, fair play, and equity shall continue to prevail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent an area of Goji River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is a very important motion that has been raised by a colleague, and it touches deeply and precisely on the way and manner we conduct government business. It is completely unfortunate that the Federal Character Commission that is established to ensure equity, fairness to Nigerians does not even have the characteristics of a Federal Character Commission. If out of 37 commissioners, you have only one commissioner, you begin to wonder what is federal character about it. And as we know in this country, the performance of an agency is as good as the director who occupies the position. And where you are to ensure equity, and you have one commissioner, you can understand and appreciate the apprehension of the mover of the motion and Nigerians. One thing that is very characteristic of the exercise of executive powers by this government, is that once you are, it is difficult to enter into the government and it is also difficult to get out. And we have passed motions here with regard to, with regard to our service chiefs. Nothing has happened. Now those who are not available and we're required to replace them, we cannot appoint them. Where you are supposed to ensure by the purpose of government and the objective of that commission to ensure federal character, we are not even appointing people to fulfill their mandate. So I don't know which state has the only commissioner remaining. But apparently the 36 remaining states or the plus FCT cannot be represented. And I read the other day about somebody paying money for appointment. This is due process that is supposed to be averted by having a federal character commission that is properly constituted. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe Majority Leader, may I have my time, please?
He's not disturbing your time.
He is. He's distracting me. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to call on my colleagues to be up to speed with regard to what is happening here. And for a while, the commission has been acting without commissioners. And the way and manner they've been acting, we do not know. Our expectation is that not only that the commissioners are appointed, the Committee on Federal Character should further investigate the conduct of the commission in the absence of commissioners. And what is the legitimate basis for the actions they have taken without the commission being properly constituted in line with the act? So for me, not appointing the commissioners is a fundamental breach of our constitution and is a fundamental breach of all the characteristics that should ensure equity. So, honorable colleagues, I want to thank my colleague for moving this motion, and that, well, it has become fashionable for the government, for the executive to breach the law. So I call on my colleagues to please support this motion. Thank you very much.
Those against this say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local Kwani Federal Constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I rely on Order 8 and the various rules to suspend all our relevant rules to enable me bring a matter of urgent public importance and urgent needs to address illegal and forceful occupation of farmland in Otabogbe, Ndemili, Oliogo community, Nendoko Kwani Federal constituencies, and the violent attack on farmers by herdsmen. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay.
Thank you. The House note, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that reported illegal and forceful occupation of farmlands and brutal attacks of the Otabogbe, Ndemili, and Oliogo communities in Ndokwa Kwani Federal Constituency of Delta State by herdsmen. Further notes that the recent attack on these communities have led to the death of 3 youth at Ndemili and score left with life-threatening injuries and permanent disabilities. Observe, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that the members of this community, who are mostly farmers, have been denied access to their farms and means of livelihood as a result of brutal attack by these herdsmen, who are permanently occupying their farmlands and destroying crops. Worried, Mr. Speaker, that the continuous occupation of these communities and the painful denial of their means of livelihood by these herdsmen have inflicted untold hardship on the people, as well as increase in crime rates amongst the idle youth. Disturbed, Mr. Speaker, that these communities may resort to self-help to defend themselves, which may lead to the loss of more lives if urgent steps are not taken by government and the necessary agencies to arrest this ugly situation. Resolve, Mr. Speaker, to urge Inspector General of Police to urgently dispatch enough personnel to the troubled communities to ensure that the herdsmen vacate the land, the farmlands. Urge the National Emergency NEMA to, as a matter of urgency, send relief materials to the affected communities that are unable to access their farmlands and their means of livelihood. 3, Mr. Speaker, mandate the House Committee on National Emergency to urgently visit the affected communities and the families of the murdered youth with a view of assessing the situation, as well as recommend adequate compensation to the family members of the deceased youth and report back to the House within 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Side, let's hear you.
Our population going back to the farm to be able to produce food for the entire country. Mr. Speaker, currently the farmers are denied their livelihood. They can hardly visit their farm, and that means that they can't even feed themselves, not to talk of feeding the entire nation. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, I think it's very, very important that the first cardinal point a government should do is to secure life and properties. And at this point in time, lives and properties are not secured in relation to this community. And I believe that this is a house of justice, fairness, and equity. It is on this ground, Mr. Speaker, that I urge honorable members to support the motion so that succor can go back to the farmers and issues being resolved by security agencies so that farmers can be able to go back to their farm and be able to maintain their families and produce for their livelihoods and produce for the nation. I think that's the essence of this motion, Mr. Speaker. I rest my case.
Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Buba, your motion.
I am Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Hong Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, my point of order is in respect to an attack by the Boko Haram insurgents in a town called Garkida in Gombe Hong Federal Constituency on Saturday, and a lot of lives and properties were lost. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to plead with the House to suspend our relevant rules. First, to enable me take this motion as the third matter of urgent importance, and to enable me take it today and urgent. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Ayes have it. Honorable Buba.
Nigerian Army to review strategy on its current campaign against terrorism. The House knows that in recent weeks there has been a serious upsurge in the activities of the Boko Haram insurgents across many parts of the Northeast Zone, which has since 2010 continued to witness incessant attacks by the group. It is easy to recall that in the last few weeks, the Auno in Borno State and Garkida in Adamawa State attacks, including others that are not reported, have left the world asking questions that remain unanswered. These attacks coming more ferociously after a time the insurgents were said to have been highly degraded, to say the least, have left our people in even more grave danger and have left our homes, businesses, business premises, place of worship, firms, and above all, lives at the mercy of the insurgents. Further notes that with these attacks, the confidence of our people repose in us, leaders, the Nigerian military, and in the entire security architecture of our dear country has completely waned. It is saddening and bears repeating as many times as we can to state the fact that our soldiers are either too few to save our people from harm's way or too ill-equipped to do so, or even both. Mr. Speaker, we are living in very curious, peculiar times. We are living at a time when there is muted disquiet in the entire military, owing largely to the sad reality that generations of soldiers, younger soldiers who have the zeal to showcase their abilities are now being retired before their seniors. Today, the military is being led by what we know as members of Course 29 of the NTA, but sadly, Courses 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and even 35, we are told are either on their way to retirement or have retired, leaving behind those they met in the service as their seniors. Recall that in the year 2014, 7 of the local government areas in my home state of Adamawa were overrun and were completely taken over by the insurgents. It took the combined forces of our local hunters and vigilante and the military who operated from behind to completely clear all these area councils of the insurgents in a record time of about 2 weeks. Today, in spite of our appeal that these local people be co-opted into our security framework through an ingenious harmonization with our conventional security apparatus, nothing has been done. We today again asking why we cannot develop a homegrown strategy to end this ravaging insurgency. Further calls that when the present crop of the present military leaders took command of the military campaign against the insurgents in 2014, we all saw that difference, fresh ideas, fresh energy and desire to make a mark, make on the war on terrorism. The insurgents were pushed to the fringes of the Lake Chad region and were decimated in their numbers. Today, 5 years later, will it be that we are losing grip on the war because of what many have seen as the inertia, infighting, complacency, and lethargy that currently exist in our military, especially among the top brass of that noble profession? We are demanding action from the executive. We call on them to rise to their oath of office and defend our nation before the gathering darkness envelops us all. Aware that there have been heightened calls to increase the number of our soldiers, I dare ask, can our nation not maintain an army of 1 million soldiers? Conservatively put it, if a soldier costs us 100,000 a month to maintain, is the sum of 100 billion naira too big for Nigeria to handle when past military budgets have overshot trillions of naira in just a few years? Experience elsewhere has shown, Mr. Speaker, that an army of 1 million soldiers can even generate revenue for the military and the government through involvement in medical services at the local areas, which ordinary medical practitioners usually refuse to serve, engaging construction works, tailoring for themselves, the police, the NYSC, and other agencies of government that may need their services at a time of peace, instead of our abnormal penchant for import everything and give our contracts out at outrageous sums. Imagine where you have medically trained soldiers manning our primary health care facilities in all our rural areas. Apart from commitment, efficiency will be assured. Also aware that there is an international dimension to the activities of insurgent groups like the Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other like-minded groups in the Sahel region and the Lake Chad Basin, whose activities and territorial ambitions and agenda have been greatly encouraged by intractable conflicts in the Middle East, in the Horn of Africa, including Libya and Sudan. The reality of the above must challenge our military to think globally on its war on terrorism, re-strategize its tactics, and create room for more injection of men, materials, and ideas into the war. It is saddening, to say the least, to learn that over 300 insurgents that came on more than 50 motorbikes that had at least 2 insurgents for each, and another 9 truckload of their fighters, only met the feeble resistance of a handful of soldiers stationed in Garkida in my constituency last Friday. At the best of times, these soldiers are usually not above 100 in that community. That was sacked by the insurgents some years ago. It is no wonder then that places of worship, markets, shops, homes, police stations, and barracks in the town were destroyed and burned down. This is to say nothing of human lives. including those of 2 brave young soldiers who, instead of fleeing, despite being outnumbered by the insurgents, chose to stay back and pay the supreme price. Concerned that if nothing urgent is done to increase the number of our soldiers by way of massive recruitment, the number of our men on the theater of conflict sadly will continue to decrease, and their morale will drop considerably, while our nation may have a sad recourse back to pre-2015. God forbid, I hear you say. But Mr. Speaker, to me, the massive recruitment talk is another form of employment for our youth, which in itself has other embedded advantages. Further concerned that those whose property, homes, and means of livelihood were destroyed in the latest Garkida attacks are generally unable to rebuild their lives and their homes, and that if no relief materials, resettlement are provided to them, they will be made to suffer further hardship as a result of the activities of the Boko Haram. The House therefore resolves, call on the executive to, as a matter of urgency, deploy enough soldiers to the affected areas. This is to forestall further occurrence and offer the people of the area a sense of belonging as Nigerians. Call on the executive to, as a matter of urgency, reorganize the entire security architecture of the entire country to move with the realities of the times. Call on the executive to commence the process of massive recruitment into the Nigerian Army, mandate the Northeast Development Commission and NEMA to provide relief materials like food items, drug items, of clothing, building materials, seedling, as well as fertilizer and other humanitarian needs to victims of the Garkida attacks. And finally, to observe a minute's silence for the soul of those lost in the attacks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Equally obliged by feelings of humanity to contribute to this discussion. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is a matter of serious concern. As of today, 9 years into the issue of insurgency and 5 years into the government of our able patriotic leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, until today we are having these issues recurring every now and then. And it is a shame to our security chiefs, with no apology. It is a shame to General Buratai and to the Chief of Air Staff. They are from the Northeast. And also it is a shame to the National Security Advisor. If they are people of honor, they have failed in their professional duties, they have failed in their moral and ethical stance. They came from that region. They are Nigerians, well-trained, given all opportunities. They are the most luckiest service chiefs that we have in this country. They have been given everything they requested from the president and by this parliament. There had never been a time when requests of funds for security and armed forces came here and we did not support it as it was presented to us. If I'm one of them, by today, I will honorably resign my appointment and apologize to the nation, and equally apologize to the entire people who know me as a friend or as a family member. The essence of being anywhere is for you to make a difference and to make impact, not only to wear your uniform and occupy the office only for the comfort of that office. In this very hallowed chamber, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we have discussed several times issues of security. We invited them here about 3 times. They told us all their narrations, and they told us they are on top of the situation. As it is today, they are not on top of any situation, because Boko Haram can still come out to go and unleash attack.
Order, please. Order, please.
Attack on communities for over 8 hours. According to the story I read in newspapers, at the time they attacked Garkida, the battalion there have been withdrawn. By who? We don't know. The house of the chairman of the Northeast Development Commission, General Tarfa, who was or who has been an accomplished general in the military, was attacked.
Good afternoon. It's nice to have you join us on Panorama. I'm Joseph Johnson. On Panorama today, federal government grants pardon to inmates in continuation of the decongestion of custodial centers. No mask, no movement begins in Calabar. And special advisor to the president on social investments program reacts to public claims of the program. Thanks for joining us on the program. Convicts have so far been granted a pardon by the President. The Ministry of Interior has flagged off the presidential pardon of inmates in continuation of the congestion of the custodial centers by the Minister of Interior, with Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Information present. Our reports indicate that so far there is no case of COVID-19 in any of the custodial centers. 39 inmates have been granted pardon by President Buhari across the nation. Now, NTA's Victor Azu joins us live from Kuje. Victor, give us a brief on how benefiting inmates qualified for pardon in terms of status.
Right, thank you, Joseph. Now, what was considered, for instance, old age was one of the major factors considered in granting the presidential amnesty to inmates. If you are 60 and above, then they want to consider because you don't have really much of your life to spare. And then they consider those who are currently sick. They considered ill health. They considered minor offenses, and awaiting trial inmates, say upwards of 10 years, we are also considered.
Okay, so is there any consideration for inmates awaiting trial who have stayed in the correctional centers for a prolonged period?
Absolutely. Just like I said a while earlier, those awaiting trial, say those who have been on that list for, say, 10 years and above, are being considered seriously. And out of all of them, including those awaiting trial, those on minor offenses, those who are suffering ill health, those who are old, aged 60 and above, 39 of them have been granted presidential amnesty by President Muhammadu Buhari. 2 of them granted pardon, 29 released by the FCT administration. And so in all today, we expect that about 70 inmates will be released. And when all the processes are completed, I repeat, when all the processes are completed across the country involving the various state governments, there will be 2,600 inmates who will breathe the air of freedom.
Okay, that's interesting. But we just getting this news. It's more like a break-in. So can you tell us what's the mood like where you are?
Well, the mood is bubbly. The Kuje Custodial Center is looking a lot of persons. It's a world press conference that preceded coming to Kuje. And so you have a lot of media people. The Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation has just come in a few minutes ago with the Minister of Information and, of course, the Chief Host Minister of Interior, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, and then the Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Correctional Service Reforms and Decongestion, who is also the Chief Judge of the FCT, Justice Ishak Bello. They have gone into the walls, I'm sure, to conclude arrangements for those who will be released here and now. 4 of them are here in Kuje, and they have gone in. We expect them a few minutes from now so that the formal release will be done and the processes for this place will be concluded to tee off, to signal others across the country to begin theirs.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Victor Azu, reporting live for us there from Kuje. Let's talk more about COVID-19 now, because 22 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 276. Of the 22 new cases, 15 are in Lagos, 4 in the FCT, 2 in Bauchi and 1 in Edo State. 44 patients out of the total number have been discharged and 6 deaths recorded. Nigeria is now having fewer cases of COVID-19 from returning travelers, but beginning to experience community transmission of the disease in the country. This was one of the highlights of the daily briefing by the Presidential Task Force in Abuja. Mitaire Ikben reports.
As expected,
the Presidential Task Force resumed its daily briefing in Abuja after a day of operations in Lagos, the epicenter of coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria. The chairman, Boss Mustafa, believes synergy among the federal and state governments has to step up as more cases are recorded.
Not to make pronouncements or take decisions that would undermine public safety in this regard.
The task force advises public and private health institutions in the country to brace up for more cases of coronavirus.
Please look out for patients presenting with unusual respiratory tract infections, especially severe respiratory tract infections that cannot be explained, because this is an important indicator now for testing for coronavirus infection.
We have 9 laboratories for testing as at today.
We have trained a total of 270 healthcare workers in each state on case management. These trainings have built capacity among our healthcare workers, not only for this outbreak, which is absolutely critically needed, but also for the future.
There were updates on returning Nigerians.
We've now started to get greater numbers of Nigerians, especially in the United States, where almost 200 have now indicated willingness to return. We're engaging with our embassies in China and our High Commission in London and also in France.
And then a clarification.
No member of the committee receives a penny as sitting allowance. Everybody sacrifices his time, his energy, and even sometimes his resources.
Judging from cases and reports received the world over and in Nigeria, the coronavirus is no respecter of persons or status, tribe or creed. The Presidential Task Force believes that the more Nigerians abide by the restriction and precautionary measures, the better for the health and wealth of the nation. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Still on the subject on Nigeria's integrated national response plan on COVID-19, Ajuri Ngalale joins me now in the studio. He is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Good to have you, Ajuri.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the presence of the 15 Chinese medical doctors in Nigeria, and of course the seeming initial opposition by the NMA, that's the Nigerian Medical Association, and other groups. So I'm not sure that has changed for now. So if you can put in perspective, what is the rationale for their presence in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think the initial opposition we had heard was based on a misunderstanding of what it was that the medical professionals from China were here to do. Clearly, Nigerian law is very clear as it relates to those who are authorized to practice medicine in the country, who are authorized to, for example, deal with our patients in terms of patient care. And that is not going to be at all infringed upon with the presence of these medical professionals from China. We've made it very clear that these individuals are virologists, individuals who understand the complexities involved with an outbreak of a virus, and clearly with their experience in Wuhan, they have shown that amongst all the countries in the global community, that they have shown that they have been able to kind of stem the tide. So just to share their expertise with our professionals, so that our professionals are just that much more equipped to deal with some of the issues around the outbreak. But in terms of, the idea that there's some sort of threat in terms of impinging on the ability of our practitioners to practice medicine, that simply just does not exist.
Indeed, because that's been going around, the town for...
Right, and it's just false. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So thanks for clarifying that for us. We have a few other questions from our viewer, Magdalene. Let's get that question now.
Omar from Cross River State. My first question, what palliative measures is the federal government giving to SMEs whose incomes and those of their staff is adversely affected by the sudden lockdown?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure you heard the question clearly. Okay.
She referenced, micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. To what extent will they be, assisted during the lockdown? It's a very important question. We're very concerned about our business people as well as the most vulnerable segments of our population, which is why we have put in place a variety of measures to assist them. Namely, the CBN has already announced a 1.1 trillion naira intervention fund. That's in the billions of dollars. That is going to be targeting the manufacturing, agribusiness, oil and gas, tourism, and other related sectors that have been hard hit by COVID-19 to be able to access liquidity and financing to sustain their operations. So those facilities are out there just for them. Then in addition to that, within that, you have 50 billion naira that's been set aside, particularly for households and micro and small, medium-scale enterprises running through the Nursal Microfinance Bank. That is a very simple process. Across the country, Nigerians can apply, submit their application, and have access potentially to those resources to make sure that their businesses are funded during this period of downtime economically. And I also want to reference the fact that the President just over a week ago constituted the Economic Sustainability Committee chaired by Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and that is going to have a profound impact, the work of that committee, on the ability of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises to function moving forward through this time, because we're working closely with the National Assembly to see how we can make some legislative interventions to incentivize financially the process of encouraging employee retention, so that perhaps we can give potentially tax credits to businesses across the country in exchange for them retaining employees through this very difficult time. So there are a series of measures that we're putting in place to protect our business people and our working staff across the country.
Talking about working staff across the country, there's this other issue about overzealous enforcement of the restrictions in place in some states. You probably are aware of what happened in Calabar, Cross River State, and a few other places. And I heard some of my colleagues even recounting how they were harassed and delayed unnecessarily on their way to work, which also impacted negatively on what they were supposed to do, despite the President's directive on who and who should be exempted. So tell me, were these police officers not properly briefed by the government?
I doubt that it's an issue of not being properly briefed. I am familiar with what you're referring to. It has been a reality in some places over the last few days, but I think it's very important for us not to allow the overzealousness or relative insubordination of certain few officers in parts of the country to overwhelm the work that over 95% of our police officers have done across the country. They've done very well. Our people have also done well in terms of abiding by the directives. I think it's very also important to mention that the IG has already come out after initial reports came out about what you're referring to. He's already come out to direct all of his men to ensure that they maintain the standards expected of them in the process of making sure that they enforce the directives of Mr. President. And I think since then we have seen certainly a toning down of some of the challenges that you mentioned.
Well, we hope that it's really going to reflect from what you're saying, because if we get a different narrative, it contradicts your,
Well, I think it's important to note that if you have, for example, 1,000 officers out there and one officer makes a foolish mistake, that officer is held accountable. But by no means should that one officer's mistake begin to smear 999 other officers who are doing a fantastic job.
Indeed. Thank you, Jury Ngalali, for coming on Panorama. It was interesting speaking with you. All right, I've been speaking with Jury Ngalali. He is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Stay with us here on Panorama. We take a short break. I'm back shortly.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
You're still watching Panorama with me, Joseph Johnson. Let's take you now to Calabar, Cross River State, where the no mask, no movement order with more than 50 patrol vehicles to conduct surveillance and enforcement in all the 18 local government areas of Cross River State has commenced. Paul Abel reports that Governor Ben Ayade, who flagged off the campaign, is part of measures to keep COVID-19 away from the state.
No mask, no movement. No mask, no movement.
The Cross River Garment Factory is saddled with the responsibility of providing nose masks at no cost to residents as they comply with the stay-at-home directive. In order to contain the spread of the virus while going about some essential services, the government says no mask, no movement, which took effect in the state from the 6th of April 2020. This directive places Cross River State as the first in the country to embark on this idea of no mask, no movement, but there are several questions begging for answers. What is the possibility of distributing masks to all residents? Where can the people obtain the masks at no cost? NTA News went around town to check the compliance level and enforcement of the order.
When government give order, you must go to follow them, do the thing, continue.
It's okay. If I can even pick one, yeah.
Some of them make provision for their own mask.
The state has no movement restriction based on the government's sensitivity to the economic needs of the people, but necessary precautions are taken to prevent the entry or spread of the virus.
The state has a very lengthy border with the Cameroons. So, and each of these local governments, you have some illegal routes which have to be manned. So in addition to neighboring states, you will see that if we really have to lock our borders perfectly, then we need to man and police every single entry point into Cross River State. And so what we have flagged off today is a massive campaign of no mask, no movement.
Behind you, Your Excellency, are over 50 vehicles which you have provided for this response. This is the first in Nigeria.
As the government continues with the daily production of thousands of nose masks for the public, violators in vehicles will have their vehicles impounded for a fine of 300,000 naira, and erring individuals will be quarantined for 14 days in their homes.
In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
67 Nigerians arrived Nigeria Wednesday through the semi-border post. A statement by the Nigeria Immigration Service Public Relations Officer, DCI Sunday James, indicates that contrary to an early report, the returnees were received by NIS operatives who handed them over to officials of the Lagos state government. After thorough profiling of the 67, 58 are from Osun State, 4 from Lagos, 2 from Oyo, and 1 each from Ondo, Edo, and Ogun states. A special advisor to the president on social investments, Mariam Uwais, said the attack on the operation of the social investment program is not justified in view of the successes recorded on the program. In a response to the selection of beneficiaries, Mariam Uwais said her role and singular focus has simply been to comply with the terms of agreement and the MOU entered into by the federal government of Nigeria, as well as establish an objective of an efficient and transparent process for uplifting the poor out of poverty through structures and mechanisms that are credible and sustainable. Mariam Uwais described as untrue and regrettable claims that information about the NSIPs was not accessible to the National Assembly, stressing that all invitations to public hearings and meetings were honored and documents relating to the structure, activities and progress of the NSIPs were routinely shared with the National Assembly over the period that the program was under the auspices of the Office of the Vice President. She described also as misleading the allegations that the program gulfed over 2 trillion naira since 2016 when the fund was created, as well as all releases for the programs between. The conditional cash transfer of the federal government today has gone beyond just providing succor to the poor and vulnerable persons in the country. For Asukwa Andem, one of the beneficiaries in Odukmai local government area of Cross River State, the money has literally resuscitated his ailing mother at this time of lockdown. Mobasidet has the report.
The government do something is good because like my mom see, she not well, so for now government help my mom see to wake up now. My mom see feel normal.
Asukwa Andem is one of the 11,995 beneficiaries of the conditional cash transfer in Cross River State. Others too have this to say.
Federal government, thank you. And God bless in Jesus' name.
This money help me to do any other thing, my family, my business, my children in school.
In Cross River State, 235,900,000 naira is to be paid to beneficiaries across the 18 local government areas of the state.
And there's what is called the top-up. Top-up is paid as extra to the vulnerable groups. So for this particular set of people, as against 20,000 naira that is paid to the other vulnerable groups and poor families, these people are receiving 40,000 naira as we speak.
The payment made to the poor and vulnerable households would also cushion the effect of the COVID-19 lockdown. In Odukwan local government area of Cross River State, Umo Basidate, NTA News.
Let's talk sports now. Tokyo 2020 athletics qualifications suspended until December. Kene Emma Abudike brings us more on sports.